let's finish this last example. What I wanted to say was that if for the numerator, when we have 4 minus a minus 2, we can write that as 4 plus 2. And then in the denominator, it's x2, which is 0, minus x1, which is negative 3, which turns into 0 plus 3. And then we further simplify by adding 6 over 3, reduce that to 2 over 1, or you could just write 2. Next, remember that in this section we're also going to learn how to graph using a point and the slope. So I started this first example already, but what's important in this section is to remember this equation, y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. If you're given the slope and the y-intercept, we can automatically write the equation of the straight line. So for these 3 examples, what we want to do is write the equation and we want to draw the graph. So for the first example, we have the point 0, 2, which is on the line, and we're given that the slope is 1. 0, 2 is a pretty good point because 0, 2 is actually a y-intercept. So if we have the y-intercept, we can easily substitute 2 for b and 1 for m, which gives us y equals to 1x plus 2, which is the same as x plus 2. This is our equation. Let me quickly show you how to graph. And so what we want to do is we always start with the point that's given. You graph that first. This is your y-intercept. 0, 2 is right here. Let me show you about the slope. The slope is 1. We can write 1 as 1 over 1. We can also write 1 as negative 1 over negative 1, because that will also simplify to positive 1. Why do we want to do this? Because this will help us figure out the rest of our points. I will always ask you to choose or to find 3 points, to label 3 points anytime you're asked to graph. So we have 0, 2. If we look at the slope as positive 1 over positive 1, to get another point, start at 0, 2, move up 1 in the positive direction, and 1 to the left, or 1 to the right in the positive direction, which gives us another point. You can keep doing that, up 1 to the right 1, so we have another point. But if you want to get points down here, instead of going up 1 and to the right 1, if you think of the slope as negative 1 over negative 1, what we could do is go 1 point down in the negative direction and 1 point to the left in the negative direction. So then we go 1 down and 1 to the left. You could do it again, 1 down, 1 to the left. You can essentially get as many points as you want. You will need to label 3 points. So I randomly just picked 3 points. We have our y-intercept, which is 0, 2, and then this point up here is 2, 4, and this point on the x-axis is negative 2, 0. This is an x-intercept, and that's a y-intercept. So you always want to label 3 points. You don't have to pick as many points as I did. I just wanted to show you that you can always pick as many points as you want. Let's look at example B. So for this example, we have slope is 1 over 5, and we have another y-intercept, 0, 1. So you can write your equation, y equals 2, replace m with 1 over 5x, plus 1. Remember, I'm using y equal to mx plus b. Replace the slope with 1/5, b with 1. That's your y-intercept. You can only replace b with the y-intercept. You cannot replace it with any point. It has to be, this b has to be your y-intercept. Okay, so the same process. You always start with your point that's given, this y-intercept. It's on the y-axis. Then we look at our slope. It's positive 1 over 5. So remember I said you can think of the slope as positive 1 over 5, or similarly to example A, I can write negative 1 over negative 5. Both of these will help me get more points. I will just pick 3 points in this case. So let's see, if your slope is 1 over 5, you will go up 1 and to the right 5, both positive directions. So we have up 1 and to the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here is a second point. Let's label that point. The x-coordinate is 5. The y-coordinate is 2. So 5, 2. Next, since I don't have enough space here, what I want to do is get a point down here. So that's when we would also think of the slope as negative 1 over negative 5, which means go down 1 and to the left 5, both in the negative direction. So you always start from your y-intercept. Go down 1 and to the left negative 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here is my third point. Let's label that point. The x-coordinate is negative 5. The y-coordinate is 0. And my y-intercept is already labeled up here. I don't have to rewrite it. You have your 3 points, connect them, and you have your graph. Make sure you have arrows at the end of your graph. It just means that it continues to the right and continues down to the left. Okay, one more example. Example C. So in this case, our y-intercept is 0, negative 1. Slope is negative 2 over 3. So let's write our equation. Our equation is y equals, replace your slope with negative 2/3 x minus 1. That's my b value. So in this case it's negative, so I have to write negative 1. That's my equation. Alright, so what we want to do, same idea, start at 0, negative 1. That's a y-intercept, so it's on the y-axis. Okay, now our slope. What's our slope? Negative 2 over 3. You can also write your slope as 2 over negative 3. So if your slope is negative, the negative can be applied to the numerator or to the denominator. Or you can also put the negative in the middle of the fraction, but the middle of the fraction won't really help me here. So I'm just looking at these two. Now, if my slope, if I write it this way, negative 2 over 3, what does that mean? That means I should go down 2 in the negative direction and 3 units to the right in the positive direction. From here, let's start. So we go down 2, 1, 2, and then 3 units to the right. 1, 2, 3. Here's my second point. I want to label that point. The coordinates are 3, comma, negative 3. Okay, so that's done. I need a third point. Let me show you how to get the third point using 2 over negative 3. You can go, so you would go 2 units in the positive direction from the y-intercept. 1, 2, and then negative 3 would be to the left in the negative direction. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That is my third point. Let's label that point as well. Coordinates are -3, 1. You have your 3 points labeled. The y-intercept is already given, so I don't have to rewrite it. I have 3 points. I connect them, and I have my graph, and we are done. Now, you do not need to use -2/3 and 2 over -3. You can just use one of these. For example, if you wanted to just use -2 over 3, you could have continued here. You just go down 2, 1, 2, and to the right 3, so I would have gotten a point here. So I could just do that. You can just use one of them, or you can use both. You could have continued here, and you could have gone up 2, 1, 2, and to the left 3, 1, 2, 3, so you would have gotten a point right there. So it just depends on how much space you have and how big your graph is. So it just depends on how you look at it. But I wanted to show you both methods. You can use both of them. Sometimes it's easier to use both, and sometimes it's just easier to use one method. If you have any questions on these, please make sure that you ask me or you email me, and I can give you more examples. Also, please make sure that you practice the problems in your book, especially for graphing, because on your test I will ask you to graph basically straight lines exactly like this, where you have to label your points and just basically do the same thing. So make sure that you practice the problems in your book. If you're just going to use the software, it's not the same as graphing it by hand, which is what I require on your test 2 and also your final exam. So please make sure you have enough practice where you have to write things out by hand, especially the graphs. It's very, very important.